Hello, my name is Chris. I'm part of the CivicX team for the Capstone 2 project 2025. And this video is for any future teams that will continue to work on this project. So I'm just going to go over this little wiki about the project to give you guys a better idea of what the project entails. So what is CivicX? CivicX is a governance enabled uh, and we don't have any actual governance taking place within the token at the moment, but the functionality is actually programmed in there. We're just not making use of those functions. Governance, so it's a governance enabled ERC20 token programmed with Solidity. If you don't know what those things are, we'll go over it in a little bit. And it's designed to run on the Polygon network, on the Polygon blockchain. So CivicX allows individuals to receive CBC, that's the name of the token we gave, the CivicX token, as a reward for doing civic contributions. So, for example, somebody performs community service, they will receive CBC, and this will come from a retailer. But we'll go more into what it is in a bit. So CivicX makes use of smart contracts to create custom functionality for earning and redeeming these CVC tokens. So yeah, it basically, the gist of it is we have the CivicX Foundation itself, who sells CivicX tokens to retailers, small businesses, and those small businesses can then reward their customers who perform civic actions like community service with CivicX tokens, which then those customers can redeem back in the retailer for some actual products or services that such retailer offers. So what is Solidity? We said that's what CivicX is programmed in. It's an object-oriented programming language for blockchain programming, and it's commonly used with Ethereum. And we also mentioned that CivicX is an ERC20 token. So what is that? An ERC20 token, you can think of it as an interface in Java. So instead of Java in this case, the ERC20 token is implemented using Solidity. So not Java, but Solidity, the programming language. So think of this ERC20 token as a type of interface in Java. And it's a standard that's defined by certain methods that need to be mentioned and defined by the developer. Or even better yet, you import a commonly known library that abides by this ERC20 token, which all it is, again, we said is basically an interface. So the name of some functions that you have to implement. If you use a library that implements these methods, then that library would be ERC20 because it's making use of those methods. So it's just a standard with methods, and CivicX uses this ERC20 standard. And we also talked about we mentioned the Polygon blockchain. So Polygon is a layer 2 blockchain. So blockchain is where transactions of crypto coins are saved and logged, and you can learn more about that in, there's a lot of videos. But basically, a layer 2 blockchain runs its own blockchain network, but it uses an existing blockchain for adding levels of security, data, or final settlement for itself. So basically, the Polygon network is its own blockchain, right? It has its own Ethereum virtual machine network that contracts get deployed to, and it performs all these transactions. The only difference with Polygon is that it periodically sends data called Merkle groups to the actual Ethereum mainnet blockchain, so a separate blockchain, and that acts as an additional layer of security for Polygon because it's verifying that it it's able to verify its own transactions with the previous transactions that it sent to the Ethereum blockchain, right? So it's an additional layer of security. So that's why it's a layer two. Layer two, it just means that it's its own blockchain, but it uses another blockchain in its functionality. So this project consists of on-chain smart contracts that define the token governance, time lock, claims, and vesting. We'll go over this in more detail in a bit. It also we have some off-chain developer tooling. We use Node.js. We use something called Hardhat. We use TypeScript. We use a library called Ethers for compiling, testing, deploying, verifying, and developing these Ethereum contracts for our project. And we also have some additional lightweight scripts that help with the workflow of the project, so like deployment scripts and such. And we'll go over it. So our tech stack and why we decided to go with this tech stack for the CivicX project. So again, our main programming languages are going to be Solidity. That's what we program the actual CivicX token with. And we also use TypeScript. If you're familiar with JavaScript, TypeScript is a superset of it. And it also, a reason we use it is that it's safer to develop with it than JavaScript for typesetting, and it also integrates well with Hardhat and Ethers, which are their own. We'll go over what they. So what frameworks and libraries? We use the Hardhat frameworks. It's a tool for Ethereum contract development, and we said that Polygon itself, its blockchain is running an EVM, which is an Ethereum virtual machine. So Polygon itself it's basically Ethereum. It really is, but it has its own network, so it's Polygon network. But the reason we use Hardhat anyways is because it's able to emulate an Ethereum blockchain locally on your machine. So that way testing, developing, all of that is a lot faster, and it has a lot of functionalities for plugins and other tools that help you program Ethereum contracts, smart contracts faster. Ethers.js, it's a popular EVM client library with support for TypeScript. It works great for signing transactions, providing management of contract bindings. We also use OpenZeppelin, which is another type of library again. OpenZeppelin helps a lot with bringing in already developed security standards so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel for making sure that our development is well secured, especially with those basic transactions, which are mentioned in the ERC20 standard. And TypeChain, it generates type contract factories, interfaces for TypeScript, so it helps prevent mistakes. So, for example, let me show you what TypeChain can help you with. Say you're not using TypeChain, and you're creating this const contract with using the Ethers library. This is how you would have to put it. You put an address, maybe I signer. We'll go over what all of this is later on. And then you have to provide an address and be able to mint this, but there's no autocomplete, no type checking. But if you use TypeChain, so you import it, you're able to create your token a lot faster using the signer. You're able to do the minting, and this actually makes sure that this is type checked. Over here, you might put different values, and your mint function might not work. Different types, data types, might not work here. It is strict, and balance of is also strict. So it's just helping with type checking, this type chain library. So why didn't we choose other libraries, other pretty popular libraries for developing Ethereum smart contracts are Truffle and Web3? The reason is they're more legacy, they're older, they're not as good as Hardhat and Ethers at being able to help you develop Ethereum contracts fast as these do. So yeah, that's why we chose it, and they're the current ones that are used widely, so they're highly supported in forums and all that. So why did we choose Hardhat, Open Zeppelin, and Ethers? Again, custom governance and token. It avoids possible attacks when using Open Zeppelin because it already has security added to it. It's constantly updated, um, getting patched with the latest security updates. Ethers JS because it makes being able to make requests to JSON RPC endpoints easier. No need to write AV8 and code and decode functions for each type. We'll go over what all of this is, but there's a really important reason why we use Ethers. And Hardhat, as we had mentioned before, um, it helps you develop Ethereum contracts very efficiently in your local machine because it's emulating a blockchain and has a lot of other useful tools. So our architecture, our on-chain architecture. Let's go over the architecture of the CivicX tokens. So this is going to go into why we're using that ERC20 standard and what other functionalities in terms of a crypto token we're giving this. So we give it the ERC20 security, permit, votes, and cap in the amount of tokens. The purpose for each of these is with ERC20 votes, we're able to track voting checkpoints. So we have historical voting power per block. Again, that is actually not implemented. ERC20 permit, we also haven't implemented this, but there is governance implemented in writing in the program. We're just not calling those functions. We cap the supply at 1,000,000 CivicX tokens. And we also have an access control library, specifically for something we call a minter role, and we'll see what it is. But basically, when you mint tokens, so going into what token minting is, when you mint tokens, it's basically creating new tokens that are available to be used, to be awarded, to be added to the blockchain, and you have to have a certain amount of privilege to be able to mint those. So we have a special minting role, uh, and that allows uh, a voucher, what's called a voucher. So basically, retailers award, I mean, the CivicX Foundation awards retailers with a voucher for CivicX tokens, and then when the retailer is ready to basically cash in because they buy the voucher, then they can cash it in to get the actual tokens. The way they cash it in is by having those tokens minted by the minter role. We'll go into this. So you definitely want to give yourself some time to study this, get a good idea of it. There's a lot of things that you might need to Google and YouTube. I think it's a wise thing to do because it does get a bit complex, especially if you're new to crypto development, which the whole team was in our case. But yeah, I'll stop this video here, and then I'll continue with 3.2 governance in another one. Thank you.